Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. So today we are going to do a follow-up on the video I recently did on installing Docker and doing some basic setup on DigitalOcean on Ubuntu 18.04. But today we're going to make it a little bit easier. So before we did all the steps manually, it's good that you kind of understand what goes into that. If you haven't ever done that manually before, to install Docker and do some basic setup on the system, create a new user and all that kind of good stuff. But today we are going to make it a lot easier by using like Cloud Init. So basically some CloudConfig stuff we're going to drop into the user data field when creating the droplet on DigitalOcean. It's going to do all that stuff for you. So it's going to make this very repeatable, and in a future video, I'll show you guys how to do this using the API as well. So let's take a look at the code first. So this is what's called CloudConfig. Links in the description to some descriptions on how to use CloudConfig. It's not necessarily directly intuitive, but once you read it over and understand how it works, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. Hang on one second. Need to mute my notifications. There we go. All right. If you take a look at this file, you can see this doing a few things. So it always opens with this CloudConfig piece here. And then first thing we're going to do, so DigitalOcean creates a root user by default. And if you don't select to use the SSH login, it's going to email you a password for that. So, but we don't want to do that. So we're going to actually create a new user called MJ. We're going to add him to the sudo group. The standard shell for this user is going to be bin bash. No password to be able to sudo, so that's what this enables. And then I've created an SSH key that I want added to that authorized keys file. So this is the public key. Don't worry, I'm going to delete this after this video, so you won't be able to use my key. But this is a public key file that I'm adding in here. And I'm also adding this public key file in as the root user. Now, it's actually not going to matter because I'm actually going to disable root from being able to SSH in, but you'll see that in just a second here. But I'm still going to add this key file in there. So this is a public key file. I'll have the private key file that I use to SSH into this server. So that's sort of the user's setup section up here. Then if you scroll down a bit, you can see the run command here. And run command basically runs things from the bash prompt. And so the first thing I'm going to do is do a sed and replace the permit root login with no. So that's going to disable root login in an SSH file. And the file it's modifying is etc ssh sshd config. And we're also going to disable password authentication for SSH. And then we're going to change the allowed users to include the MJ user that we created up here in the user section. And then we're going to restart SSH. So that piece is done. So without the rest of this down here, which we'll get into in just a second, that would be all you need to do is sort of set the server up to kind of lock down SSH and to enable the new user you just created to be able to SSH in using the key. But what we also want to do is to make it easy for you to be able to SSH in, to run Docker. So what we have here is all the steps that we did manually in this video that I've linked up here. Excuse me, but just done automatically for you on the installation of the system. So let's walk through this. First thing we do is to make sure there's no old versions of Docker on here. Then we run an update to get all the updates from the repos. Then we install these things here, so that apt transport HTTPS, CA certificates, curl, GNU PG agent, and software properties common. We add the SSL key. I'm sorry, the GPG key, and make sure that it's valid. We add the repo for Docker in here. Remember, this is the latest stable. You can specify, link in the description to the installation. There's a section in there where you can specify the version you do want to install. I'm just installing latest stable. sudo apt-get update again to basically pull in what's available in this repo, and then to install Docker CE, Docker CE CLI, and containerd. Then it automatically adds the user that we created up top, MJ, to the Docker group. It enables Docker so that if we reboot, it's going to automatically start Docker up. And this last piece is a little bit of trickery, because if you have to update this and it goes to update like grub or something like that, it actually gives you an additional prompt. So the -y, so the yes to install, actually isn't enough. It gives you additional prompt that you need to interact with. So this last section here, the sudo Debian front end non-interactive piece, and these other pieces here, basically accept the default prompts that it's going to give you, because otherwise this is going to fail. It's going to expect user input, and it won't do this update, and you'll still have to do updates after you install the system. So this line is here to basically install any important updates, so that when you log in, you won't have any updates left to install, and it'll also complete successfully. So what you'll see, and I'll do it right now, is if I copy this whole section here, and link in the description, you can go grab this off the blog, and we'll move that out of the way, and I go to create droplet. So just like we did in the other video, do the $10 a month. We will do it in New York 3, private. And instead of choosing this IDRSA down here so we can SSH into it, we're just going to choose private networking and user data. And that's that code that we just went over. We're going to paste it in here. So it's just going to go and do all these things for you, and then it'll be done when it comes up. So we'll call this cloud init test 1 and create. Now this is going to take a little bit longer, so you need to be patient here. And while this is going, please make sure that you, if you haven't used DigitalOcean before, click the link in the description. It is an affiliate link for DigitalOcean. It does help the channel out. If you go there, you get $50 free for 30 days to go in here and play around. And if you spend 25 bucks, then the channel gets $25. And I'll be able to keep doing this more. So it really supports and helps out the channel here. Do appreciate it very much. So you can see that this is done as far as the console is concerned, but we need to give it just a couple more minutes because it's still running stuff in the background. And if you go log in too soon, you'll see that it'll let you log in, but like Docker won't be installed yet and the updates won't be installed yet. So do be patient. But I suppose that's maybe been long enough. Let's go see, in fact, if that has been long enough. So the temp IDRSA key is in there. Awesome. It looks like we're in. Let's just do a Docker PS. No. So it hasn't actually completed yet. So we actually went in a little bit too early. And so let's log back out and just give it a few more seconds here. Like I said, it's still running a whole bunch of things in the background. It's doing all the install of Docker. It's running all the updates that you need, as well as modifying any files for the SSH and stuff, just to make sure that it's complete. So let's go ahead and log in again. Hey, look, that time it worked. So now when we run Docker PS, you can see here that, what did I do? You can see that it actually completed that. And if we take a look at the history, the update history, so we're gonna basically output the var log apt history. You can see in here that it's done apt-get install of a number of things for the OS. You can see that there's our apt transport HTTPS CA certificates install. Here's our Docker CE install, and then here's the last piece that I ran that basically goes and updates all those packages and updates grub and all those other things from the OS level. And when we logged in the first time, you can see that there were 28 packages that could be updated. 13 were security. Now there are no packages. So if I do a apt what am I doing? Apt upgrade, sorry. Man, a little bit slow. Oh, sorry. I'm not root. Apt upgrade. There is nothing to install. So even though the first time we logged in, it hadn't run those updates yet. So there's 28 packages that could have been updated. Now it's actually done that here in this section, as you can see in the history. And now when I run an upgrade, there is nothing to install. So now Docker's installed. It installed 18096, which is the latest, all just because of cloud in it. So there's nothing else for you to do. When you log in, you're ready to rock and roll with Docker, systems updated. Still go and do the lockdown on the firewall, like I showed you in the other video. In a future video, maybe I'll show you how to use the UFW firewall to do some lockdown. But for now, this is the way I do it. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much. And I'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.